Sounds like it's lost, heading unknown.
While officers are trained to handle just about anything, sometimes they come across things no training could prepare them for.
What the hell does his face look like?
From eerie shadows appearing on security footage to strange creatures lurking in unexpected places.
开着荧幕过去的。
Get ready to see the most strangest encounters ever caught on duty. A strange video recorded by a police dashcam surfaced online on November 25th, 2024. The footage showed officers chasing a suspect at high speed. Just as they were about to catch up, the suspect did something unexpected. He threw a flashlight toward them. But this wasn't just any flashlight. It had 100,000 lumens, so bright it blinded the officers instantly. For a few seconds, their vision was completely gone. When they finally regained sight, the suspect's car had vanished. No skid marks, no turnoffs, just an empty road ahead. A trick they had never seen before. Creepy creature. The night shifts at the storage facility had always been quiet, until recently, when people began experiencing paranormal activities. One night, while checking the long hallways, the workers saw a terrifying sight. Shadowy arms and hands were reaching out from nowhere, but they weren't normal. They were giant and furry, nothing human at all. Shocked to see this, he still recorded everything before running out. He then showed it to his colleagues, who all agreed on seeing strange entities at the same spot, which led them to lock that specific spot.
Hello?
Night guard's nightmare. A worker on the night shift kept hearing voices echoing through the empty halls. It felt like someone was there. Grabbing his camera, he started recording. As the camera rolled, a woman-like figure appeared, sitting silently in the corner of one room. She stared straight ahead. Then, as if she knew she was being watched, the recording suddenly stopped. He was never seen after that. Some believe he left out of fear. Others say the spirit took him. Either way, no one was willing to take his shift after that night. Quick pass. While patrolling a quiet neighborhood, a police car's dashcam recorded a dark figure standing at the end of the street. But here's the strange part. The officers inside never saw anyone there. This wasn't just any neighborhood. Over the past few weeks, several people had gone missing, only to return with no memory of what had happened to them. Some were found wandering miles away, confused. Now, with this ghostly figure caught on camera, locals believe it might be connected. Paranormal investigators say it could be a ghost, or worse, something not human. Whatever it was, it didn't belong there. And ever since that footage surfaced, no one dares to walk that street after dark. Scary report.
Window there.
Yeah,
Top window.
yeah.
A family in the UK had a scary experience when their young daughter pointed at a nearby house. She claimed a dark figure was standing in the window. At first, her father thought she was imagining things, but to be sure, he decided to record the house. What he captured were shocking, bizarre shadows that moved swiftly across the windows, gliding from room to room at an unnatural speed. It wasn't just one shadow, but multiple. The way they moved left the family shaken. Some neighbors admitted they had seen strange things there before, but no one had ever caught it on camera. Now, many believe that whatever haunts that house isn't just one spirit, but something far worse.
Bottom window. Bottom window.
I can only see it on the phone.
True devotee.
Hello?
A paranormal investigator was exploring an abandoned church that had been closed for years. At first, everything seemed quiet, but then the unusual happened. But as he walked through the main hall, he was shocked. Sitting on one of the benches was a white figure dressed like a nun. It wasn't moving, just staring at him, and its face was pale, almost lifeless. Fear took over. Without thinking, he turned and ran, refusing to look back. Whatever he saw that night, he never returned to find out, and now the church remains untouched, with whispers that the spirit still waits in the dark, watching.
Oh my God!
Last patient. A security officer's first assignment at his new job was patrolling an abandoned hospital wing, closed for some time. Staff warned him about the place, telling him that spirits still roamed the empty halls. At around 2 in the morning, his flashlight caught a figure at the end of the hall. It moved to the side and vanished. He rushed forward, but there was nothing, just silence and a creepy coolness in the air. Some believe it was just a shadow, but others say the spirits of the past still wander inside. Since that night, the officer refuses to walk those halls alone.
Hey, what's up?
Terrifying creature. In Japan, a veteran police officer's life changed forever after investigating a haunted house. Whatever he encountered that day followed him home. Each night, objects moved on their own, and footsteps echoed in his empty apartment. Searching for answers, he placed talismans and scattered flour on the floor to catch any trace. But what happened next was terrifying. A pale, white face stared at him through the door window, completely still. It watched him in silence before slowly disappearing. Since that night, no one knows what followed him home, but many believe it never left his side. Coast Guard's nightmare. A couple of friends were enjoying a late-night walk on the beach when something terrifying happened. Out of nowhere, a tall, skinny, pale figure appeared behind them. It moved strangely, crossing their path in an unnatural way. The moment they saw it, fear took over. Without a second thought, they stood up and ran, never looking back. Whatever it was, it didn't seem human. Some believe it could have been a cryptid, while others think it was something far more mysterious. Its face wasn't clear, but its presence alone was enough to leave them shaken. To this day, they still wonder what kind of creature they encountered that night.
No mames. Córrele, güey, no mames. Córrele.
Scared officer.
What do you want from me?
While crossing the woods at night, a local man heard a strange voice. Curious, he decided to check it out. As he moved closer, a creepy woman appeared from behind the trees. But something was off. Her legs were bent in an unnatural way, as if she was walking in a crouched position while making creepy sounds. The sight scared him. The way she moved and looked made it seem like she was possessed by some dark, negative energy. The man couldn't explain what he saw, but that night still haunts him.
Why you keep following me?
Night shift went wrong.
Are you okay, ma'am?
If you were walking down the street at night and saw this, what would you do? A local man was outside his house near the road when he spotted someone in a wheelchair moving in the distance. But something felt off. The figure's presence was unsettling, and it didn't seem human at all. Then, as if noticing him, it suddenly stood up and started running straight toward him. Without wasting a second, he turned and ran, desperate to escape. Even after getting away, he couldn't shake the thought of what he had just seen. Was it a cryptid or something else entirely? Whatever it was, he never wanted to see it again. Police on patrol.
Yeah, listen, there it is again.
While patrolling near a remote forest, officers heard strange voices echoing from deep within the trees. The sound was clear, yet the area was completely deserted. Curious, they stepped into the darkness. The deeper they went, the more unsettling it felt. The ground was untouched, as if no one had been there for years. Yet, the voices had come from this very spot. Was it spirits? Something else? The officers searched but found nothing, and maybe that was for the best, because whatever was out there was better left undiscovered.
Yeah, listen, there it is again.
Scary presence. During his night shift, a security guard sat at his desk, casually checking the cameras. Everything seemed normal until he noticed something strange. In the distance, a smoke-like figure appeared, but this wasn't just smoke, it moved with purpose, almost like an energy, a spirit. It hovered for a few seconds before vanishing, as if it had never been there. The guard was clearly scared, but he forced himself to stay calm. He wasn't alone in the building, but knowing that didn't make it any less unsettling. That night, he kept an extra eye on the cameras, unsure if it would return. Spooky call.
Just before 3:30 in the morning, the police department communications center got a call that they refer to as abandoned, meaning the other person hung up. So they called back, got an answer, and heard mostly static.
Calls don't come from empty places, but this one did. At 3:30 in the morning, a police communication center got a strange call. There was no voice, just a static sound before the line cuts off.
Hello?
Dispatchers called back. Someone picked up, but there were no words, only that same noise again. An officer was sent to check the funeral home and cemetery where the call had come from. But when he arrived, everything was locked, dark, empty, no sign of life. So who was it? The cops still don't know.
An officer was sent out to check out the funeral home and cemetery and says it was locked up and dark with no one in sight.
Little ghost. Airport workers were renovating a shutdown section when they started noticing something strange. They spotted a small figure all dressed in white, wandering the upper floors several times. An area that had been locked for years. Worried someone had entered the restricted zone, they called an officer to check, who solved the mystery in the most unexpected way. There was a pale-faced little girl standing behind a locked door. He turned and ran, recording everything. Later, when they checked the footage, her face was still there peeking through the door. I guess some places stay closed for a reason. Creepy creature. During a late-night raid, officers stormed an abandoned building after reports of illegal activity. Moving cautiously through the crumbling halls, they braced for criminals hiding in the dark. But what they found was far worse. A pale, humanoid figure clung to the wall. Its long limbs were unnatural. Then, to their horror, it began crawling upward, moving toward them in an unnatural way. Fear took over. Even as trained officers, none of them wanted to stay and find out what it was. They decided to leave, escaping into the night. No one knows what they encountered in that building, but one thing is certain, they were lucky to get out. Ghost kids. Late at night, in a quiet police station, something unusual happened. Something that still has people talking. A security camera recorded an officer leaving 2 balloons in the hallway. Nothing strange about that, right? But what happened next was beyond explanation. The balloons didn't stay put. They moved slowly, deliberately drifting down the corridor as if guided by an unseen force. Their movement wasn't random, it was controlled. They were probably a spirit, perhaps children, playing with the balloons. Or let me know, what do you think in the comments? Ghost on plane. What was supposed to be a quiet night shift turned into a terrifying encounter no one could explain. A worker was finishing his shift when he heard strange noises coming from an empty plane and decided to check it out. As he walked down the dark aisle with only his torch lighting the way, a shadowy figure suddenly peeked at him from behind a corner. The bizarre moment was caught on video, showing him in shock. It was around 3 a.m. in Mexico City, and he had been following airline protocol after hearing doors slam on the aircraft. But the moment he saw that figure, he didn't think twice. He turned and ran. To this day, no one knows who or what was hiding inside that plane.
No mames.
UFO encounter.
The object was likened unto a cross, although the inner parts were something similar to the points of a compass.
In 1967, a patrol car was on night duty along the A3072 between Hatherley and Holsworthy. At around 4 in the morning, the officers saw something strange in the sky. It was a mysterious object that hovered at the treetop level. It shaped like a cross and was glowing bright white. Not making even a single sound, the object became faster when the officers tried to get closer. This made them call for backup, but everything seemed slow against the speed of that aircraft. The news spread like fire, and several people verified the claims of the officers as they spotted similar objects too. But the government officials kept all the evidence to themselves and never informed the public about the investigations.
Did it make any kind of sound?
No sound that I heard at all. There was no outside noise apart from the noise of the car itself.
Bright beam. A CCTV camera captured footage of a female employee in a red uniform waiting for the elevator. But she wasn't alone. An eerie light beam was also caught on camera. The moment it moved, the woman ran in terror. And the moment she ran, something strange happened. In her panic, she ran frantically and collided with the wall in front of her. Some believe this was merely a reaction to fear, causing her to lose awareness of her surroundings. However, others insist that the light beam was responsible, that she crossed its path and was possessed by a demonic entity. Though she was rescued, the woman had no memory of the encounter, leaving the mystery unsolved. Gas station ghost. One night, a security guard was on duty when he noticed something strange. A figure was slowly moving toward the guardhouse, but something felt off. It didn't walk, it seemed to glide. Curious but uneasy, he stepped outside to get a better look. The moment he did, the figure vanished into air. Shocked at the sight, he rushed back inside and checked the security cameras. What he saw made him scared. The figure was still there, moving toward him, but when it disappeared, the footage glitched, almost like something had interfered. Since that night, the guard refuses to work alone. Portal to hell.
The power of Christ compels you.
A house in Gary, Indiana became known as the portal to hell after a family claimed they were tortured by demons. The mother reported her daughter being lifted off the bed. Her son, in front of hospital staff, walked up a wall. Even police officers heard strange voices coming from the basement. The house gained national attention when a paranormal investigator bought it for $35,000 to uncover its secrets. Locals and a priest believed it was truly haunted. Dark figures appeared in windows. Horseflies swarmed inside even in winter. The family, now far away, insists something evil still stays there, making it one of the most creepy homes ever recorded.
A doctor from the psych ward said that's not real. That's not human. No human can do that.
Odd hiding spot. On April 11th, 2023, in Port Orange, Florida, police found themselves in a chase they'd never forget. A suspect had crashed his car and taken off into the woods. Officers spread out, searching everywhere. After an hour, one officer stopped and looked up. A single shoe hung from a tree branch, and just above it, the suspect stuck tightly, hoping to stay hidden. With police dogs below and tasers ready, he had no choice but to come down. As he hung, still trying to outsmart them, officers closed in. It was a hiding spot straight out of a movie. Mysterious UFO encounter.
The light was coming at me. It was extremely bright. The inside of the car lit up. I can remember that. And it was a very dazzling, brilliant occurrence.
Something in the sky changed Deputy Val Johnson's life forever. In 1979, while patrolling a quiet Minnesota road, he noticed a bright light hovering ahead. At first, he thought it was a truck's broken headlight until it came toward him at an impossible speed.
Something did strike my vehicle. Something didn't want me there, apparently, or it was, I can't put a judgment on it. I really don't know how to classify it. I can't classify it as an attack. Perhaps it was a mistake.
Then, everything went black. When he woke up, his car was ruined. The windshield was shattered, headlights broken, and antennas bent backward. His eyes burned as if exposed to something powerful. Investigators found no clear explanation. To this day, what Deputy Johnson encountered that night remains one of the strangest mysteries in law enforcement history. Roswell incident.
I had complained to him recently about he had given a story to somebody else, and I'd been left off the list.
In the summer of 1947, something strange fell from the sky near Roswell, New Mexico. A rancher named Mac Brazel found odd pieces of metal scattered across his field, thin, weightless, and impossible to break. He took them to the local sheriff, who immediately contacted the military. Then came the shocking announcement. The U.S. Army claimed they had recovered a flying disc, but within a day, they changed their story, calling it a weather balloon. Many didn't buy it. Years later, Major Jesse Marcel, one of the first officers on the scene, admitted the debris was not from Earth. Ever since, people have questioned whether was Roswell the first real proof of extraterrestrial life.
I remember the CIA being at some of our launches, and they were the ones who were pushing this. Said, yeah, let these remain UFO reports as a cover-up for all these secret programs that were...
Shadowy figure. While patrolling the halls of a local hospital, a security officer's body cam captured something that still has people talking. As he walked down an empty corridor, a dark shadow suddenly appeared at the end of the hallway. It formed out of nowhere, and then vanished without a trace. The officer later said he didn't see anything strange while walking, only noticing the figure when he checked the footage. Some believe it could be the ghost of a former patient, while others think it might be the Grim Reaper. Whatever it was, many now wonder what unseen presence might still wander the hospital at night. Paranormal invader. On the last night of 2022, police rushed to a house after neighbors reported strange noises during New Year's Eve. Inside, a group of friends had been using an Ouija board, trying to contact spirits linked to a family with a dark past, but something went horribly wrong. One of them suddenly became aggressive and locked herself in a room. Her friend said she wasn't acting like herself, as if something had taken over. Police couldn't get inside, so they used a ladder to reach her window. After a tense struggle, they got her out and rushed her to the hospital. She is still receiving treatment, and many believe whatever was contacted that night never truly left. Ghost of criminal. Officers at a prison started hearing strange sounds, whispers, footsteps, and knocks echoing through the halls. At first, they ignored the noises, but when they grew louder, they set up cameras. It wasn't long when one of the camera caught something moving, a shadowy figure standing in the distance. It looked human, but its presence felt wrong. Later, they found out the truth. The figure matched the description of a murderer who had been hanged there. His presence still remains, creeping through the prison like he's still waiting for his next victim. Grim Reaper. The security staff of a hospital kept receiving reports of people being disturbed at night by a loud banging on their room door. When it got too much, one man decided to open the door after the loud knocks and see who's there. Though his eyes spotted nothing, his camera caught the culprit. It was a dark, shadowy figure that entered his room, passed through the bed, and vanished into thin air. According to one of the staff members, this was the ghost of a patient who passed away in the same room 10 years ago due to the negligence of the doctors. And to this day, it haunts everyone who stays in the room. Mysterious encounter.
It was being treated as a crime scene. I think everybody at that stage thought it was a crime. That's how obvious it was.
In 1980, workers at a coal yard found something shocking. A man's body lying on top of a coal heap. Just 30 minutes earlier, that spot had been empty. The man was Zygmunt Adamski, who had vanished days earlier during a simple shopping trip. What made this case truly bizarre was how clean he was. No coal dust on his clothes, his hands spotless, even his white shirt untouched. Even the coroner admitted this case was beyond explanation and closed it, calling it a cold case. Ghost passenger. A bus driver had just finished his shift for the night. As he prepared to park, he looked at the camera monitor and was confused. A stranger was sitting on the upper deck. Since this was the last stop, No one should have been there. Thinking someone had stayed behind, he got up to check. But when he reached the upper deck, it was empty. The person he saw on the screen had vanished. The driver was shaken. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Some might call it a glitch, but after that night, he never felt alone on his bus again. Ghost's voice. If you drive east on Route 7 between Hamilton and Leesburg, Virginia, you might notice something strange. That's what happened to a local man one night. As he crossed the highway, he suddenly heard whispers, many of them, all speaking at once. But here's the unsettling part. He's not the only one. Travelers on this road often report the same thing. The voices are always low, almost like a whisper. Yet, they never stop. No one knows where they come from or what they are saying. But one thing is certain, this stretch of road holds a mystery that refuses to stay silent. UFO encounter.
Just started my midnight shift, which is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. From my left rear, there was a really strong light. It lit up the entire cab of my cruiser.
It was just the start of a long midnight shift. The officer was out on patrol, driving the cruiser through quiet streets. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until suddenly, from the left rear side, a blinding light flooded the entire cab. The officer could hardly see the road, struggling to keep control of the wheel. As the light moved slowly along the side of the cruiser and stopped just in front, the officer looked up and spotted a glowing sphere, about the size of a Mini Cooper, only 30 feet away. Its surface looked alive, like plasma swirling and changing colors: red, green, white. When the officer pointed a spotlight at it, the object went across the nearby water, vanishing in an instant. Detective encounters ghost. A police officer was keeping an eye on the security cameras Espanola Police Department when something on the screen caught his eye. At first, it looked like a bug flying past the lens, but then the officer noticed the legs. Another surprising detail was how the figure walked through the locked, secured area without triggering any alarms. He called his supervisors, but by the time they checked, the figure was gone. Some officers had already reported strange sounds and even the feeling of breath on their necks. Now, they all wonder the same thing. Was this the ghost that's been haunting the station? Phoenix lights.
Hey, Sue?
South Mountain had always been silent at night until the sky lit up. A man stood watching when a strange light flickered above the peak, then another and another. They didn't stay still. From miles away, they looked too bright to be anything normal. With the lights gone the next day, it proves they weren't from a building or a tower, but rather extraterrestrial, something mankind was never meant to see.
I hit pay dirt. Finally.
Paranormal mystery.
Jeff, here you go, lady. Here you go. What happened?
This man had a strange and unsettling experience in his attic. He suddenly felt himself being lifted off the floor, as if pulled by an unseen force. Before he could react, he was drawn toward a wooden beam with an exposed nail. At the same time, he felt a tight pressure around his neck, making it difficult to breathe. Luckily, his family was nearby and quickly helped him down. Though shaken, he was left with marks on his neck, an odd reminder of an experience he still can't explain.
I told Gary that there was nothing happening up there, and he turned around and he was coming this way. All of a sudden, I feel this thing around my neck, and it's got me hanging.
Visit to hospital. Late one night, a CCTV camera inside a police station captured something truly unsettling. Officers on duty reported seeing mist-like figures hovering outside the glass entrance. But what happened next left them speechless. Without warning, the heavy glass door suddenly swung open on its own. There was no wind, no person nearby, and no logical reason for it to move. Some believe that something from another world may have entered the station that night. Whether it was a restless spirit or something darker, this mysterious event has left everyone who saw the footage questioning what really happened. Secret operation. A group of friends was enjoying a desert safari when things took a terrifying turn. Out of nowhere, strange humanoid creatures appeared, surrounding their cars. Some were white, while others had a purplish shade. Their movements were unnatural, making it clear they weren't human. Fear took over as the friends tried to run them away, but the creatures didn't back off. They stuck to the vehicles, refusing to let them escape. The most shocking part? These weren't just any creatures. Many believed they were skinwalkers. Trapped in the middle of nowhere, the friends could only hope they would make it out safely. What happened that night remains one of the scariest moments of their lives. Nightcrawler.
Gue dengar suara, teman-teman. Dan arahnya di daerah.
A man exploring a remote area at night caught something creepy on video. While walking with his flashlight, he heard strange noises from the trees. When he pointed the light toward the sound, two pale humanoid figures peeked from behind the trees, then quickly disappeared. Their thin, ghostly bodies seemed to be watching him from the darkness. The video cuts off, but many believe he ran for his life. And who wouldn't? These creatures didn't look human. With their long limbs and pale skin, they seemed to come from another world. To this day, no one knows what he encountered, but those who have seen the footage agree. It's the kind of thing you never forget.
Gue dengar suara, teman-teman. Dan arahnya di daerah. Astagfirullah.
Guards' spooky encounter. This footage was recorded at night in Ventanilla Market, where a security guard was on duty. The market was completely empty, yet the guard seemed to notice something. He walked toward it and crouched down, as if speaking to someone small, maybe a child. But here's the strange part. Whatever he saw wasn't visible on camera. Only he could see it. After a few moments, he simply stood up and walked away. When the video was uploaded, it went viral, sparking speculation. Many believe he was interacting with a spirit, perhaps a child who had passed away. Well, the footage remains one of the creepiest ever recorded. Creepy ride.
An officer telling of a story her partner told her of a ghostly encounter at the Pali lookout.
Honolulu police shared a creepy story that left many uneasy. A new officer was assigned to lock the Pali lookout gates late at night, a task many avoided due to bizarre stories surrounding the place. As she secured the first gate and drove to the second, she noticed a woman in white standing ahead. Slowing down, she rolled down her window to check if she needed help. But then, a strange feeling washed over her. Reflecting in her rearview mirror, her heart stopped. The woman was now sitting in her back seat, silent and still. Recalling her grandmother's advice, she spoke gently, staying calm. As she exited the tunnel, a peaceful feeling took over. She looked again just like that. The woman was gone.
Officers would get into accidents because, they drive past this white figure.
And now, let us move on to our subscriber pick of the day. A security guard was making his usual rounds at a graveyard when he caught sight of movement between the headstones. At first, he thought it was just a trespasser, but when he pointed his flashlight toward the area, he was shocked. The beam landed on a dark figure, which quickly hid behind a gravestone. Its movements were strange, too fast, too unnatural, and the more he stared, the less human it seemed. The guard had worked many quiet nights without incident, but this was different. Even now, he can't explain what was watching him from the shadows that night. Some think it was just a trick of the light, others aren't so sure.